When I look back at my life, I don't think about the billions of dollars or the massive headquarters in Hangzhou. I think about the year 1988 when I was a young man riding my bicycle through the streets, earning $12 a month as an English teacher. I remember looking at the people around me, my colleagues, my neighbors, the people in the market. They were all very comfortable. They had their little routines, their small dreams, and their safe, predictable lives. At the time, I thought that was what success looked like. I thought that being normal was the goal, but I was wrong. I was deeply, dangerously wrong. What I saw wasn't safety, it was a slow-motion disaster. It was the curse of being average. You see, being average is like sitting in a bathtub of warm water while the room slowly freezes. It feels good at first, it's comfortable, it's easy. But while you are sitting there enjoying the warmth, you are losing your edge. You are becoming soft. You are choosing a path that leads nowhere, and the most terrifying part is that you are choosing it voluntarily. Nobody forces you to be average. Nobody forces you to be good enough. You choose it every time you decide not to work that extra hour. Every time you decide to fit in instead of standing out. And every time you listen to the people who tell you to be realistic. The middle class is a trap, a beautifully designed cage meant to keep you obedient and productive for someone else's dream. I remember telling my friends about my ideas for the internet. They told me I was crazy. They told me to stick to teaching because it was safe. They were worried about me, but their worry was a poison. They wanted me to stay in the middle with them because my ambition made their lack of ambition look bad. This is the hidden cost that no one tells you about. When you choose to be average, you are giving up your soul in exchange for a sense of security that doesn't actually exist. The world doesn't reward good enough anymore. In the age of the internet, in the age of global competition, being average means you are invisible. It means you are replaceable. It means you are just another brick in a wall that is eventually going to crumble. We are taught from a young age that failure is the worst thing that can happen to us. But I tell you, failure is a stepping stone to greatness. The real enemy isn't failure, it's the middle. If you fail big, you learn. If you win big, you change the world. But if you stay in the middle, you do neither. You just exist. You become a person who has potential, but never uses it. You become a person who has ideas, but never executes them. And eventually, you become a person who has regrets. If you do what everyone else does, you will only get what everyone else has. And what does everyone else have? They have debt. They have stress. They have a deep, underlying fear that they have wasted their lives. You must realize that average is just a polite word for being a loser in a winner's world. It sounds harsh, I know. I am a humble man, but I have seen the truth. The world is divided into two groups, those who are obsessed and those who are average. Those who are obsessed create the future, and those who are average watch it happen. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, and average people hate discipline. They want the result without the process. They want the crown without the cross, but there is no shortcut. You have to pay the price, and the price of greatness is the total abandonment of the middle. I was rejected from Harvard 10 times. I was the only person out of 24 applicants to be rejected by KFC. At the time, I felt like a failure. But today, I realized that those rejections were protecting me from being average. If Harvard had accepted me, I might have become a comfortable professor. If KFC had hired me, I might have become a comfortable manager. Those rejections forced me to find my own way. They forced me to be extraordinary because I had no other choice. You must find that same hunger. You must look at your comfortable life, your okay job and your nice habits, and you must feel a sense of urgency. You must realize that every day you spend being average is a day you are stealing from the person you are meant to become. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. But if you are average, you will never be prepared. You will be too busy being comfortable to notice when the door opens. Don't let the curse of the middle take your life from you. Wake up. When I started Alibaba in my small apartment in 1999, there was no air conditioning. We didn't have fancy chairs or expensive computers. We had 17 people crowded into a room, working until 3 in the morning, sleeping on the floor, and eating instant noodles every single day. People look at me now and see a billionaire, but I often tell them that those days in the apartment were the most important days of my life. Why? Because I was uncomfortable. I was hungry. I was desperate. And in that desperation, I found a power that a comfortable man can never understand. The greatest enemy of a billionaire mindset isn't failure, It is the warm bed of a stable life. Comfort is a silent killer that whispers to you that you have done enough, and that whisper is a lie. I remember clearly the day I went to apply for a job at KFC when they first came to China. 24 people went for the interview. 23 were accepted. I was the only one who was rejected. Then I went to the police station for a job. 5 people went, 4 were accepted. Again, I was the only one rejected. At that time, it hurt my heart. I felt like the world was closing its doors on me. But looking back, I realized that my lack of comfort was my greatest competitive advantage. Because I was rejected, I could not find a stable job. Because I could not find a stable job, I had to be creative. I had to be tough. I had to build my own world. Because the existing world wouldn't have me. Most people stop growing the moment they find a salary that covers their rent and buys them a few drinks on the weekend. They settle into a routine, and that routine becomes their coffin. You must understand that the world only remembers doers, not talkers. And most talkers are people who have become too comfortable to do anything difficult. They have a good job, so they don't take risks. They have a nice house, so they don't want to move. They have decent friends, so they don't seek out mentors who will challenge them. This comfort numbs your hunger. It acts like a drug that makes you forget that you were meant to build empires, not just pay bills. If you are not careful, your good life will prevent you from ever having a great life. I have seen so many brilliant young people with high IQs fail in business because they were too comfortable. They had too many options, too many safety nets, and so they never developed the mental hardness required to survive a real storm. Failure is a stepping stone, but comfort is quicksand. If you fall, you can get back up. But if you sink into comfort, you might never realize you are disappearing until it is too late. I've always told my employees at Alibaba that we must stay hungry, stay foolish, but more importantly, we must stay uncomfortable. The moment we think we are the best, the moment we think we can relax, that is the moment we start to die. You must learn to be disgusted by the ease of an ordinary existence. If your life is too easy, you should be terrified. It means you are not climbing, you are just coasting. And you can only coast in one direction, downhill. I see people today who spend all their energy trying to avoid stress and avoid pain. They want everything to be balanced and smooth. But diamonds are not made in smooth places. They are made under extreme pressure and heat. If you want to be a diamond, you must welcome the pressure. You must seek out the challenges that make others quit. When I was starting out, I had to deal with the fact that nobody believed in the internet in China. I had to deal with no venture capital, no government support, and no technical background. I was uncomfortable every single day for 10 years. But that discomfort calloused my mind. It made me untouchable. If you find yourself in a place where you are satisfied with your stable paycheck and your safe routine, you are in the danger zone. You are paying the hidden cost of being average, and that cost is your potential. You are trading your future greatness for a temporary feeling of security. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, and discipline is never comfortable. It is hard to wake up early. It is hard to study when you are tired. It is hard to say no to your friends so you can work on your business. But that hardness is what saves you. You must intentionally destroy your comfort zone before it destroys you. Do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. Because it is in the difficult life, in the struggle, and in the rejection that the billionaire mindset is born. I am not a billionaire because I was lucky. I am a billionaire because I was rejected by KFC, and I had to learn how to survive. My lack of a stable life forced me to be extraordinary. If you want to win, you must stop seeking comfort and start seeking growth. Growth and comfort can never coexist. You must choose one. If you choose comfort, you choose to be average. If you choose the struggle, you choose the world. There is a very simple mathematical formula for success, but they do not teach it in schools because if everyone understood it, the entire system would collapse. The formula is this: you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I realized this early in my journey, and it was one of the most painful realizations I ever had to face. If you look at the people you spend 5 hours a day with, you are looking at your own financial ceiling. You are looking at your future. If those 5 people are complainers, you will become a complainer. If those 5 people are comfortable being average, you will stay average. I had to make a very hard choice when I started my first business. I had to leave my hometown friends behind. It sounds cold, doesn't it? People say, Jack, how can you forget your old friends? But I didn't forget them, I outgrew them. Their conversations were always about the past, about who did what in high school, about how the government was failing, or about the latest gossip in the village. They never talked about the future. They never talked about how the world was changing or how we could solve problems for millions of people. Average people trade their time for money, while the elite trade their mindset for freedom. If your circle isn't discussing investments, disruption, and global scaling, you are paying a high friendship tax. You are literally paying for those friendships with your potential wealth. I remember the 18 founders of Alibaba. We were not the smartest people. We were not from famous universities, but we were a circle of people who refused to be average. We pushed each other. When one person wanted to give up, the others pulled them up. This is the power of proximity. If you want to soar like an eagle, you cannot keep swimming with the ducks in a small pond. Ducks only quack and complain about the water. Eagles look at the horizon. You must audit your relationships with the same cold logic you use to audit a bank statement. If a relationship is not yielding a return in growth, inspiration, or challenge, it is a liability. And in business, you must cut your liabilities quickly. Failure is a stepping stone, but the wrong companions are a weight tied to your ankles while you try to swim. I have seen so many talented entrepreneurs fail, not because their idea was bad, but because their social circle was toxic. They had broke-minded friends who whispered in their ear that they were being too greedy or that they should settle down. These friends aren't trying to help you. They are trying to keep you at their level so they don't feel like failures. This is the mathematics of mediocrity. If you add 0 to 0 5 times, the result is still 0. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity, but your preparation is heavily influenced by the voices you allow into your head. When I was in my apartment, we didn't have much money, but we had a billionaire atmosphere. We spoke the language of success. We acted as if the world already belonged to us. We were preparing our minds for the opportunity that was coming. If I had stayed in the tea houses with my old friends, I would have been prepared for nothing but a lifetime of what-ifs. You must be ruthless with your time. Time is the only asset you cannot buy back, yet average people give it away for free to people who bring them nothing but negativity. The world only remembers doers, not talkers, and the people you surround yourself with will determine which one you become. If you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. You should be in a room where you feel small, where you feel ignorant, and where you feel the pressure to grow. That pressure is what creates the diamond. The hidden cost of being average is the comfort of a small, safe circle. It feels good to be the big fish in a tiny pond, but that pond is drying up. You must find a bigger ocean, even if it means being the smallest fish for a while. Ask yourself, are my friends helping me build my empire, or are they helping me decorate my cage? If you want to be in the 1%, you cannot do what the 99% do. You cannot hang out where they hang out. You cannot talk how they talk. It is a lonely path at first, but the view from the top is worth it. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, and part of that discipline is choosing your environment. Change your circle, and you will change your life. The mathematics don't lie. When I was a young boy, I was told that the only way to escape poverty was to follow the path laid out by the masters of the classroom. I was told to study hard, memorize the facts, and pass the exams so that I could get a good job at a big company. But I failed my primary school exam twice. I failed my middle school exam 3 times. I even failed the college entrance exam 3 times. At the time, my parents were ashamed, and my teachers told me I had no future. But today, I look back and I realize that my failure was my greatest liberation. You see, schools are factories. They are not designed to produce leaders or innovators. They are designed to produce high-quality, average employees who never ask why. They are designed to create people who are perfect at following instructions, but terrified of taking risks. The hidden cost of traditional education is the slow death of your instinct. We are born as disruptors, but the system spends 20 years trying to turn us into servants. They teach you to be realistic, which is just another way of telling you to be average. In the classroom, there is only one right answer, but in the real world of business, there are 1,000 answers, and the most profitable ones are the ones nobody else has thought of yet. If you only know what is in the textbook, you only know what your competitors already know. Real wisdom is found in the dirt, in the struggle, and in the marketplace, not in a lecture hall led by someone who has never risked a single dollar of their own money. I remember when I first brought a computer to my home and invited my friends over to see the internet. None of us were tech geniuses. I didn't know how to code. I still don't know how to code. But I understood something that the A students didn't. I understood how to connect people. The students who got the best grades were too busy looking for a stable path to see the revolution happening right in front of them. They were waiting for a certificate to tell them they were ready, while I was busy failing and learning in the real world. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. But that discipline must be directed toward your own vision, not toward a curriculum designed in the last century. The world only remembers doers, not talkers, and certainly not test takers. When I hire people for Alibaba, I don't care about their degrees. I care about their Q, their LQ, the quotient of love and passion, and their AQ, the adversity quotient. Can you handle being rejected? Can you think for yourself when the rules don't work? Average people think that once they graduate, their learning is finished. They stop reading, they stop questioning, and they start waiting for their pension. But the elite know that education is a lifelong war against your own ignorance. To be extraordinary, you must first unlearn everything the average system forced into your head. You must unlearn the fear of being wrong. I often say that luck is when preparation meets opportunity, but the school system prepares you for an opportunity that no longer exists. It prepares you to be a cog in a machine that is being replaced by artificial intelligence. If you want to survive, you have to be the one who builds the machine, not the one who oils the gears. You have to be crazy enough to believe that your ideas are better than the professor's. When I was starting out, people said, Jack, you don't have a background in finance, you don't have a background in technology. How can you build a platform like Alibaba? I told them that because I didn't know the rules of how things were supposed to be done, I was free to do them the way they should be done. Do not let your schooling interfere with your education. The most expensive lesson you will ever learn is the one that teaches you to play it safe. If you follow the average path of education, you will end up with an average life, an average salary, and average regrets. You must become a self-taught warrior. Read the books the masses ignore. Study the failures of the greats. Get your hands dirty in the real world. The certificate on your wall is a piece of paper. The scars on your spirit from trying, failing, and trying again. That is your real degree. This is the only way to escape the trap and become untouchable. In the early days of Alibaba, I walked into a room of investors in Silicon Valley, and they looked at me as if I were a crazy man. I remember the feeling of being dismissed, the subtle smiles of people who thought I was a fool from Hangzhou with a dream that was too big for my tiny frame. Most people, when they are laughed at, they get angry, they get defensive, they let their faces turn red and their hearts beat fast, and in that moment they have already lost. Why? Because they have given away their power. Most people are poor because they are slaves to their feelings and the opinions of their neighbors. They are reactive, jumping like puppets whenever someone pulls the string of an insult or a rejection. I learned very early on that if you want to hold $1 billion in your hand, you must first be able to hold your temper in your heart. When people laughed at Alibaba, I didn't argue. I didn't try to prove them wrong with words. I stayed silent, I smiled, and I went back to work. I worked harder because my emotions were under my control, not theirs. If a small criticism from a stranger or a negative comment on the internet can ruin your day, you are far too weak to handle the heavy responsibility of success. You are paying the average price of being a victim of your environment. The cost of being average is being a slave to every wind that blows. Winners, however, become like stone, untouchable by the praise of the masses or the hate of the critics. Success is not about how smart you are, it is about how stable you are. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, and the highest form of discipline is emotional discipline. I have seen many people with high IQs fail in business because they couldn't handle the pressure. The moment things went wrong, they panicked. The moment someone betrayed them, they were consumed by bitterness. They let their internal world be dictated by the external world. But I tell you, your internal world is the only thing you truly own. If you cannot control your mind, you cannot control your money. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. But if your mind is clouded by anger or fear, you will be blind to the opportunity when it stands right in front of you. The world only remembers doers, not talkers, and talkers are usually people who are too emotional to act. They spend all their energy talking about how they were wronged or why things are unfair. Life is not fair. Business is not fair. I was rejected from 30 jobs. Was that fair? No. But getting angry wouldn't have given me a job. It would have only made me tired. I chose to use that energy to build my own future. You must realize that your emotions are your enemy if they are not your servant. You must train yourself to observe your feelings without acting on them. When someone insults you, look at it as a test. Can you stay calm? Can you stay focused on the mission? If you can, you have already won. Average people love to complain. They love to sit in tea houses and talk about how the economy is bad or how their boss is mean. They are looking for someone to blame for their mediocrity. But a leader knows that blame is a waste of time. Every minute you spend being angry is 60 seconds of progress you have thrown away. This is the hidden cost that keeps people in the middle. They are so busy being right that they forget to be successful. They value their ego more than their bank account. I have no ego. I am happy to be the crazy guy. I am happy to be the one who was rejected. As long as I am the one who reaches the finish line. You must become untouchable. When you reach a certain level of success, people will try to pull you down. They will lie about you, they will doubt you, and they will wait for you to stumble. If you are emotional, they have already defeated you. But if you are like water, you can go around any obstacle. You must be humble enough to accept feedback, but strong enough to ignore malice. The secret to wealth is not just in the numbers, it is in the nerves. It is in the ability to stay cool when everyone else is losing their heads. If you want to change your life, start by changing how you react to it. Stop being a leaf in the wind and start being the mountain. I often tell my team that in the early days of Alibaba, I had to make decisions that kept me awake for many nights. People look at my face and they see a smile and they think, Jack Ma is a nice, kind man. But you must understand the difference between being kind and being nice. In the world of business and in the journey toward greatness, being a nice guy is often just a mask for being a coward who is afraid of conflict. I learned very early on that if you try to please everyone, you will end up pleasing no one, and you will certainly end up with nothing. The hidden cost of being average is the desperate need to be liked by everyone around you. Average people prioritize being liked because they want to fit in. They don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. They don't want to have the difficult conversation, and they don't want to stand up and say, this is not good enough. But if you are afraid to make the hard choice or fire the lazy friend who is dragging your company down, you are choosing a life of mediocrity. Your niceness is a debt you are paying with your potential success. I have had to tell people I love that they were not the right fit for the next stage of the company. It was painful. It was not nice. But it was necessary for the survival of the vision. If I had been nice, Alibaba would have died in that apartment in 1999. Leaders want to be respected and effective. Average people just want to be popular. You must realize that the world only remembers doers, not talkers, and definitely not the people who tried to make everyone happy. If you are building an empire, you are going to be the villain in someone else's story. That is the price of admission. If you aren't prepared for people to call you cold or arrogant or ruthless, then you should stay in your comfortable job and stay out of the arena. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, and that includes the discipline to be unpopular for the sake of the mission. I remember when we had to pivot our strategy and some of my oldest colleagues didn't agree. They were my friends, but their mindset was staying in the past while the world was moving to the future. I had to be firm. I had to be the one to say, we are going this way, and if you cannot follow, you must step aside. It wasn't because I didn't care for them, it was because I cared more for the 102-year vision of the company. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. But if your preparation is hampered by people-pleasing, you will miss your window. You cannot steer a ship if you are let everyone else put their hands on the wheel just to be polite. The nice trap is what keeps people poor. They lend money they don't have to friends who won't pay them back because they are too nice to say no. They stay at a company that treats them poorly because they are too nice to quit and leave their boss. They accept average results from their children and their employees because they are too nice to demand excellence. This is not kindness, this is weakness. True kindness is telling someone the truth they don't want to hear so they can grow. True kindness is protecting your time and your energy so you can create a legacy that helps millions, rather than just being agreeable to 10 people in your immediate circle. If you want to be in the 1%, you must stop seeking the validation of the 99%. Most people will not understand your obsession. They will think you are being too much. They will tell you to relax and be more balanced. They say these things to make themselves feel better about their own lack of drive. When you stop being nice to their excuses, they will get angry. Let them. You are not here to win a popularity contest. You are here to win at life. The price of greatness is high, and part of that price is the willingness to be misunderstood. Stop worrying about being nice, and start worrying about being right, being fast, and being the best. When I was struggling in the early years of the internet in China, I used to think a lot about the stories of the great inventors and entrepreneurs from the West. We are all told the story of Thomas Edison. We are told that he failed 1,000 times before he finally invented the light bulb. It is a very famous story, but most people hear it and they learn the wrong lesson. They think the lesson is simply try hard or don't give up. But I tell you, that is an average person's interpretation. The real lesson of Edison, the Edison illusion, is not about the quantity of his failures. It is about his absolute refusal to accept the average methods of his time. He wasn't just trying, he was systematically eliminating the mediocre paths that the experts said were the only way. Edison succeeded because he was willing to look like a fool for years in order to achieve one moment of genius. Most people would have quit after 3 tries. Why? Because they are terrified of what their neighbors would think of their failure. They are worried about their reputation in the local tea house or the local office. This is the hidden cost of being average. You value your social standing more than your ultimate vision. If you aren't willing to be the crazy failure in your town for a decade, you will never be the hero in your industry for a century. Edison had to be unnice to his competitors and obsessive to his workers. He had to be a disruptor who ignored the stable logic of the candle makers. I remember when I told people I wanted to build a global trade platform. They said, "Jack, the big American companies already own the market. You are just a small teacher. Why do you think you can compete?" They were looking at the 1,000 failures I had already accumulated in my life. They saw my rejections from KFC, from the police, and from Harvard as proof that I was a dreamer who should go back to the classroom. But like Edison, I saw those rejections as proof that I was narrowing down the path to my own light bulb. Failure is a stepping stone, but only if you are using it to climb out of the hole of being average. If you just fail and stay the same, you are just a loser. But if you fail and adapt, you are an innovator. The world only remembers doers, not talkers. Everyone remembers the light bulb. No one remembers the 1,000 people who told Edison he was wasting his time. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. But Edison's preparation was 1,000 nights of being uncomfortable, 1,000 days of being laughed at, and 1,000 moments of choosing to be extraordinary when it would have been so much easier to be average. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. And Edison's discipline was his willingness to be misunderstood. He didn't seek work-life balance, he sought the light. If you are currently failing, do not be sad, be happy. It means you are in the arena. It means you are testing the boundaries of what is possible. Average people don't fail 1,000 times because they don't even try once. They are too busy being safe and stable and comfortable. They're sitting in the dark, complaining about the cost of candles, while the Edisons of the world are working through the night to bring the sun into a glass bottle. The cost of being average is that you will eventually be forgotten. The cost of being extraordinary is that you must first be ridiculed. You must embrace the Edison illusion. You must understand that every time you are rejected, every time a business idea fails, and every time someone calls you crazy, you are actually moving closer to your goal. You are eliminating the average options. You are becoming untouchable because you are building a mountain of experience that the comfortable people can never climb. Don't be afraid to fail 1,000 times. Be afraid of living a life where you never tried anything hard enough to fail even once. That is the true disaster. That is the true cost of being average. Every morning, when you wake up, you are given the most valuable currency in the universe. It is more valuable than gold, more valuable than Bitcoin, and more valuable than the shares of Alibaba. That currency is time. But there is a silent thief in your house, in your pocket, and in your mind. This thief is the average lifestyle, and it is stealing your life minute by minute. The average person today spends 4 or 5 hours a day on entertainment, watching videos of other people's lives, playing games that mean nothing, and scrolling through social media just to see what their neighbors are eating. Then they look at me and say, "Jack, how did you get so lucky? Why am I so broke?" They are broke because they are trading their future for a temporary hit of dopamine. I remember when I first started my journey, I didn't have a TV for years. People thought I was poor, and I was, but I was actually protecting my greatest asset. I knew that every hour spent watching someone else's dream on a screen was an hour stolen from my own mission. This is the hidden cost that no one talks about. The price of chilling out is a lifetime of servitude. While you are sitting on your sofa, someone else is in their apartment, working, learning, and building the machine that will eventually own your job. You are literally trading your future freedom for a moment of comfort. Average people spend their time to save money. The elite spend their money to save time. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. But how can you be prepared if you have spent all your time on relaxing? I have never met a successful person who had a work-life balance in their 20s or 30s. They were too busy. They were too obsessed. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. And the hardest part of that discipline is saying no to the distractions that the world uses to keep you average. The system wants you to be distracted. It wants you to watch the movies and buy the products and stay in your seat. A distracted person is an obedient person. But a focused person is a dangerous person. A focused person can build an empire from nothing. The world only remembers doers, not talkers. And talkers always have the same excuse: I don't have enough time. This is a lie. We all have the same 24 hours. The difference is that I spent my hours trying to figure out how to make money while I sleep, so that eventually I could own my time completely. If you do not find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die like an average person. That is the ultimate cost of being average. You spend your youth trading your time for a paycheck, and you spend your old age wishing you had your youth back. I see young people today who are tired after 8 hours of work. They go home and they say they need to unwind. I tell you, if you are doing something you love, if you are building your own dream, you don't need to unwind. The work itself gives you energy. I worked 18-hour days for a decade, and I felt more alive than the people who were working 40 hours and sleeping 10. You must treat your time like a hawk treats its prey. You must be ruthless. Cut out the people who waste your time with gossip. Cut out the habits that don't move you toward your goal. Stop being a spectator in the game of life and start being a player. The hidden cost of your entertainment is your legacy. Every time you pick up that remote or scroll through that feed, you are signing a contract to stay average for one more day. You are telling the universe that your dreams aren't actually that important to you. If you want to be extraordinary, you have to pay the price. And that price is your attention. Focus on your goal with such intensity that the world thinks you are missing out. Let them think you are no fun. Let them think you are bored. While they are having fun in their 20s, you are building a life that will allow you to have a different kind of fun for the rest of your life. Do not let the thief of mediocrity steal your one and only life. Whenever people ask me about the secret sauce of Alibaba, they expect me to talk about technology or venture capital or the growth of the Chinese market. They want a clean, professional answer that they can write down in their notebooks. But the truth is much more ugly than that. The truth is obsession. Balance is a myth created by people who have already given up on being great. It is a fairy tale told to children to make them feel okay about being average, to build something that changes the world, to move from a teacher making $12 a month to a man leading a global empire. I had to be obsessed to the point where my own family and friends thought I was mentally ill. I remember in the early years, I didn't see my children as much as I should have. I didn't go on vacations. I didn't have hobbies. My life was Alibaba. My blood was Alibaba. Average people value work-life balance because they secretly hate their work. They see work as a prison sentence they have to serve from 9 to 5, so they can finally start living in the evening. But winners value work-life integration because their work is their mission. It is their life's blood. If you are only working 40 hours a week, you are competing against people like me who are working 100%. The math is simple. I will do in 4 months what will take you a year. You are paying for your balance with the slow death of your legacy. People call me Crazy Jack. I like that name. If you aren't being called crazy, it means your ideas are too small. It means you are still playing within the boundaries of what the average person thinks is possible. But the world only remembers doers, not talkers, and the greatest doers in history were all obsessed. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity, but obsession is the fuel that keeps you preparing when everyone else has gone to bed. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, but obsession is what builds the bridge in the first place. Without that fire in your belly, discipline is just a chore. With obsession, discipline is a joy. The hidden cost of being average is that you are always looking for an exit. You are looking for the weekend, looking for the holiday, looking for the retirement. But if you are obsessed, you aren't looking for an exit. You are looking for an entrance. You are looking for a way to go deeper, to go faster, to go bigger. I have seen so many entrepreneurs start a company and then sell it as soon as they make a little money so they can relax. They were never obsessed with the mission. They were only obsessed with the money. And because they weren't obsessed with the mission, they will never be truly great. They will just be rich and average, which is a very boring way to live. You must realize that your normal friends will try to pull you back. They will tell you that you are working too hard. They will tell you that life is about more than work. They say these things because your obsession makes them feel guilty about their own laziness. They want you to be balanced so they don't have to feel like they are falling behind. But you cannot listen to the opinions of the sheep when you are trying to. Be the lion. If you want to achieve what 1% of the world has, you must be willing to do what only 1% of the world is willing to do. And that means giving up the comfort of a balanced life. If you are not obsessed, you are just a hobbyist. And the world doesn't pay billionaire prices for hobbies. It pays for solutions to massive problems. And those solutions are only found by the people who stay awake while others sleep. I told my initial team that we were going to compete with Silicon Valley. I told them we would be one of the top 10 websites in the world. They thought I was crazy, but they were obsessed too. We were a group of crazy people who refused to settle for a nice business. We wanted to change the way the world trades. That obsession made us untouchable. If you want to leave a mark on this planet, you have to stop trying to be well-rounded and start being sharp. Be the person who does one thing better than anyone else because you think about it 24 hours a day. That is the only way to win. At the end of your journey, when the lights begin to fade and you look back at the decades you spent on this earth, there will be no more room for excuses. There will only be the truth. And the truth is that the cost of being average is the most expensive thing you will ever pay for. It is a debt that you pay with your soul, your impact, and the future of your family. Throughout this story, I have told you about my rejections, my failures, and the crazy path I took. I didn't tell you these things to boast. I told you because I want you to understand that at the end of your life, the greatest pain won't be the pain of failure. It will be the realization that you lived a safe life that no one, not even you, will remember. I often think about the day I will leave this world. I want to die knowing I pushed every limit, broke every rule that was meant to keep me small, and exhausted every ounce of potential the universe gave me. Most people die at 25. They just aren't buried until they are 75. They spend 50 years walking the earth as ghosts of the people they could have been, all because they were too afraid to leave the average crowd. They chose the comfortable middle, and in return, the world gave them a life of quiet desperation. This is the final divide. On one side are the people who waited for permission, and on the other side are the people who took the world by storm. The world only remembers doers, not talkers. It doesn't matter how many great ideas you had, if you never had the guts to act on them. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, but that bridge only works if you are willing to cross it alone. Success is a lonely road, but it leads to a crowded finish line where the winners celebrate. Average people are terrified of being alone. They are terrified of being the outsider or the crazy one in the room. But I tell you, being an outsider is the only way to see the things that the insiders miss. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity, and your entire life has been a preparation for the choice you have to make right now. You have a choice today. It is the same choice I had in that small apartment in Hangzhou. You can stay in the comfortable middle, listening to the voices of the 99% who tell you to be realistic. You can keep trading your time for a paycheck and your dreams for a weekend of entertainment. Or you can jump into the fire of greatness. You can decide right now that good enough is no longer good enough for you. You can embrace the rejection, welcome the obsession, and callous your mind against the opinions of small-minded people. The hidden cost of your current life is the extraordinary life you are currently missing. Don't let the fear of what could go wrong stop you from focusing on what could go right. I was a teacher who knew nothing about technology, nothing about finance, and nothing about global trade. But I refused to be average. I refused to let the experts tell me what my ceiling was. I built my own ceiling, and then I broke through it. You have that same power. But you must be willing to pay the price. You must be willing to be the crazy one, the rejected one, and the one who worked while everyone else played. The final divide is not between the rich and the poor. It is between those who settled and those who conquered. Which one are you? Your family is watching. Your children are watching. Your future self is watching. Do not give them the gift of an average legacy. Give them a story that makes them believe that anything is possible. Choose to be the disruptor. Choose to be the survivor. Choose to be the winner who refused to settle for a normal life. The world is waiting for you to stop being average. So, stop waiting. Start building.